All right, welcome back to a training on how to use Odoo ERP, specifically the finance module or function. Okay, so now the next thing we are going to do is we are going to look at some basic settings or configuration so that you understand how that works before we now move into more intricate details around you get customers, vendors, how do you do receipt and all those other things. Okay, so let's start from configuration. So under configuration, let's just come to our settings. So you see a lot of things that we're going to look at here. Okay, one, please, this fiscal localization is talking of the country that you are picking from. It's very important. So if you are set initially when you're setting up, you didn't pick Nigeria. That's if you are in Nigeria. If you're in another country, you can pick other countries. Why? Is because the way they have set or programmed it, please, is very key. You have how do I want to say, the way it has been set and programmed, you can only the how do I explain this that you understand? Okay, let me explain it like this. Now, there are some laws or there are some things peculiar to each region, and they have done it in such a way that if you pick your country, you get the settings for your country. Let's take an example, Nigeria now. You know, we have what you call value added tax. So when you look at your tax settings, if you choose Nigeria, you notice that the tax settings are aligned with Nigeria. So that's very important. That's why this fiscal localization part is very key and very important. Okay. Then your initial setup. Now, your chart of account. This is talking of a chart of account. Now, there are two ways. Let's say that you are using another software, you want to migrate to this software. There are two ways to go about it. One, you can review manually. Let's click, you see what it will bring. You can review manually in the sense that you can review your chart of account. These are chart of account. So this is also a way to get your chart of account. And then what? And then edit and work on it. So you can see that there are some chart of ledgers or schedules that would naturally come with your chart of accounts. You can see different ones that we have. So you can edit, you can remove, you can add. You see, you can. This is what you can do new. Do you understand? So you can create extra ones if you don't find ones you have there. You can also delete ones that you don't need. You can see here. So you can come to actions here. Okay, so you can see duplicate, on archive. You can also delete. Okay, so that's that. So that's where you can adjust or work on your chart of account. So all right. Then another way to go about, which is the faster way, is if you are migrating from another software, you can actually import. So even if from here, you can still import your what? Your chart of account. So you can see import chart of account. This is the same thing that we have here. When I click on import, that's beyond the scope of this training. But if I click on import, it will give me an Excel schedule. So I'll just populate that Excel schedule with the way I want my chart of account I'm importing. I'll make it close to the exactly the schedule or the frame they want it, and then upload it automatically on my Odoo. It becomes my what? My chart of account. So I don't have to be adding ledgers and all those things. Everything is what? The same. So that's how your chart of account works. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so that's our chart of accounts. Okay, so you can see chart of account to here too. You can also import directly. That import that we went, you can see the button here. So you can import directly, import all your chart of account figures, sorry, ledgers directly from wherever you are bringing it from. Okay, then you can see, look at the taxes that I was talking of. You can see the default tax, sales tax, or you call your VAT. You can see that it's at 7.5%. Let's click this arrow. You can see zero exempt. You can even see 5% withholding tax and what? 10% withholding tax. Okay, so please, this to tell you that that's why you have to be very sure of the region you are choosing. So when we start doing transaction, I'll explain how the taxes work more. So you can see that we have sales tax and purchase tax. We'll look at that. Then tax prices. It's saying that anytime I want to do an invoice, do I want it to be inclusive or exclusive? When we get to invoices, don't worry, I'll explain that more so you can see how that works. Then if you want to do return, this actually has to do, you can do returns, but I know for Nigeria, I'm not sure it is actually working yet. Although I know that there is now what do you call it? E-invoicing and all those things. But I know that for returns, you still have to go to your portal. That's your Rev 360 to do your filings. But this is so you can tell them how frequently you want your returns to be. Then how many days. In Nigeria is 21 on or before the 24th, so you can put 20 days after the period there. Then journal tax return. So please, we don't need this for now. Okay, so I'm just showing you how it works. Okay, then rounding up method. Do you want to round up your tax figures to a whole or round up a line? All those ones are there. Okay, all right. So okay, so you can see Nigeria is still here. So I'll put Nigeria, physical country is very important. Then it's now asking me, is my tax based on cash basis or what? Accrual basis. Okay, no, tax basis is you pay tax on actual sales and purchases on what? On cash, not on accrual basis. So it's only those that have collected from that you what? That you do your what? You do your VAT on. So please we leave it at cash basis. Okay, all right. Then currencies. This is where you can do your currency. You can do that multi-currency or single currency. So if only we are doing Nigerian, like we trade or we our major business is in Nigerian naira alone, we can put it here. But if you have other currencies, you can also activate your other currencies here. So you can see you have a lot of currencies. So you have what? United Arab Emirates, you have almost all the currencies in the world here. So you can pick whichever ones you also want to put, and then you can also of course put the rate, because this will be my normal functional currency, that's Nigerian naira. Then I can put the rate I want it to be translating to. So I can put, so you can put, so let's say I want to do this, I can put that US dollar is 1,450 per naira. So you can put and adjust all those settings here. Okay. So let's go back to our settings. So we just have a basic overview. Okay. All right. So that's that. Then customer invoices. How do you want your customer invoices to be? Do you want to print it in color? Do you want to print on both sides or print on one side? Do you want to add a cover page? Okay. Then do you want to send invoices and payments up follow up by post or by mail? You can actually activate that. When we get to invoices, we can do some of these other settings too. Okay, all right. Then do you want to activate sales receipt? This is very key. I'm going to click that I want sales receipt to be done. Why? Because sales receipt is, when you sell on cash, different from invoices. So if it's a business that also deals with cash, do you understand? Like let's say you're a supermarket or a business that deals heavily in cash, it's very advisable to activate your sales receipt so you can actually do receipt for customers. Okay. Then your terms and condition, you can put it there. Do you want a credit limit for your customers? You can set this for your customers. If I activate it, that means that for a customer, if he has gone beyond the credit limit, the software will not allow me to give him credit beyond that what? Beyond that limit. So that's that. Okay. They have your customer payment. Do you want your customer to be able to pay online? You can add a QR code link or PDF. Now, instead of just writing account number, now technology has advanced. So you can just put that QR code. So your customer can just scan it and then they can make payment to you instead of having to what? Having to what do you call it? Having to put account number and all those things. So that is, you can also activate that. Then vendors, vendor payment, digitization, bank statement, then default account, so deferred revenue, your bank and cash, you can also import. Then let's look at the fiscal period. So fiscal period is talking of my year end. You can see December 31st is okay. But if your year end is not that, you can change that here too. You can adjust that here. Okay. All right. Reporting and all those other things. So that's basically our configuration or settings. Okay. So all right, great. So let's go. So all right. So all right, great. So I'm done. So let's go. All right. So thank you. Then I'll come in another video and then we'll start exploring more of the words, more of the software. Thank you.